coming at you. Booga booga. It's me. I know. You thought it was someone else. Like that would ever happen. Happy early Halloween. Blessed Samhain and Feast of Pachamamas to you. And I present to you, in the holiest of ways I can possibly say, a very Catholic Halloween week and the best of a black and white PorchTalk. It just felt right. You know, try different structures until you get what you're looking for. Couple of words for the week. One is esoteric, which has a specific meaning, which everyone can look up on the internet because there's no reason to remember anything anymore, since we all have the web to tell us what to do. This, of course, is no different than the Matrix, which uses us like batteries and sucks the life out of us while giving us the mental impression that we actually have an existence. And 1,001 other sci-fi applications of the same basic truth that Christ taught us. If it's not for the glory of God, ad majorem Dei gloriam, then it's of no value. So I'm going to just put this Pachamama Amazon Synod in a box right now. There may or may not be a conspiracy to infiltrate the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity in general, but specifically my original branch of it, you know, the one that was started by Peter, you know, that guy who knew Jesus, that guy? Yeah, him. Apostolic succession, you say? Yes. Avignon papacy notwithstanding? Absolutely. Yeah, the Church Jesus started, that one, yeah. Not all you friggin' heretics out there, but the actual Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Rite, don't you know? Not the Irish Catholic Rite, where the only thing we remember is the grudges we've got when we die. But no, that would be Irish Alzheimer's, but no, I'm talking about whether or not there really is something in the church that's trying to destroy us from within. And I already know about that. It's called Satan. And you see, he actually took Jesus out and tempted him 3 times, and Jesus did everything but give him the finger, which is proof that we've already been shown how to fight the devil. And he's not going away. He just wears a suit. And he is, in my opinion, more likely to be a Democrat than a Republican, but if he's a Republican, I wouldn't be surprised. There's been one great genocide in the world over the last 50 years that kerfuffles like the Amazon Synod certainly, which concern me, but which pop up in news feeds and make me wonder, when are people really going to stand back and take a look at the biggest abomination in human history? And we all know, because we can count, that infanticide, legal infanticide in the United States to the tune of 60 million plus infants, many of whom were African American and almost all of whom were poor. That's the biggest abomination that's ever occurred. And whether or not I get pissed off about Mr. Trump's tweets or his furtive subversions of the Constitution or not, or whether or not Tulsi Gabbard was in any way defamed by Mrs. Clinton, or whether or not Joe Biden or Rudolph Giuliani have ulterior motives in the world of politics that we all need to know about right now, or it's all going to be over for us, and the Republic will come crashing down, and the Electoral College is part of the problem, and 1,001 other dumbass things that are far more horrifying than the biggest ghoul show you can dream up this week for Halloween, I'm telling you. None of it makes any friggin' difference, because it all comes down to me. I am an esoterica of one. So when you look up esoteric and you realize that it talks about an inner circle, which implies concentricness, if you will, because there's probably bigger circles than that, the flip side meaning of esoteric is exoteric. Now, if you've read your Orwell, you know that you have proles, which are the working class buffoons who don't know anything. They're exoteric. The inner circle of the bourgeois, run by the party, and of course controlled by Big Brother, that would be the ultimate esoteric in that sense. In Huxley's Brave New World, we have the alphas, which are at the tip top. They're engineered to be the ones who run everything and handle the science of the world as they know it in Oceania. I'm sorry, not Oceania. I just blanked out. Oceania is 1984. Those things come together so much it's easy to forget. I'll remember in a minute. Gosh, so much for Irish Alzheimer's, forgetting everything but my grudges. But anyway, when you talk about inner circles, right, and this elite little groups, Mrs. Clinton, of course, with her dismissive comment to Trump supporters, calling them deplorable, was a lesson in being really careful if the esoteric dismiss the exoteric too readily. They can unelect you, especially when you're convinced that you weren't just going to be president, but that it was your birthright to be, which was her hubris. But whatever the case here, what it comes down to is whether or not you're really part of an esoteric group, whether or not your group is the 7 or 8 people who will actually watch this clip. We're very esoteric all the way through to the end. I would love it if this got 100 hits on the YouTube upload that I'm about to put on, because if it did, that would be more than I've ever had before. I have a feeling that if I had a picture of my cat running into a plate glass window and then doing a backflip a couple of times, and that the whole thing could be GIFed to about a 3 to 5 second loop, that would be what I'd be more viral for than anything of me talking on my porch for 12 minutes or 10 minutes or 6 minutes or 8 minutes about whatever topic I'm going to talk about. I wish that I was as educated as people like my brother Patrick Bump, who educates me a lot on church orthodoxy and has kept me apprised of this Amazon Synod online, and thank you. Or as, let's say, video friendly, as my friends the Angels are, Jackie and Bobby, who do work for Ascension online and do wonderful quality stuff. Or the dozens and dozens of men and women in the Catholic community, and not even in the Catholic community, that I work with and know closely, who educate young people about God's love for them and what it is to be a Christian in this world today, especially a Roman Catholic one. But when I talk about that word esoteric with my students, it's one of those words I teach it and then I just leave it alone, because it almost never gets used at all, and if it does, it's usually... most people I have found use the word as a synonym for strange or different, when that's not what it means at all. They'll say these esoteric changes are confusing to us. Make sure that you couch that with making it understood that there's only certain people in that circle that know about the changes, and chances are if you're not esoteric about those changes, you probably don't even know they're taking place. The changes that occur in the Catholic Church in the esoteric nature of the Curia, we almost never know about. They had cameras rolling when a bunch of people bowed before Pachamamas. And by the time we know about it, there's nothing esoteric about that move. It was a stupid thing to do. And I don't believe that there is some conspiracy to destroy the church from within like this, through our Pope. I got news for you. Since the devil tempted Jesus 3 times, there's been a real palpable force in the world, an evil one, that leads people to justify the killing of babies in the womb and call it legal and a civil right. That's the evil in the world. There's 1.3 billion Catholics in the world and 430,000 priests performing the sacraments. If a couple of primates and prelates in Rome can throw off our chi that much, then our faith was for nothing anyway. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam, right? If it's not for the glory of God, then what's it for? In this last bit of earnestness before I sign off here, there's so many people I'd like to thank for my inclusion in the world of the esoteric that is Catholicism. Everything I do, I try to be guided by God's will. I'm well aware that every time I do something stupid, that was my free will to deviate from that. A dear friend of mine, Joe, was pointing out that free will isn't enough to explain the nature of evil in the world, and that when a child is aborted, free will had nothing to do with it. And I would argue, yes, it did. The free will that people exercise to commit evil on those who have no free will still constitutes an application of will. Now, Joe, you're smarter than I am, and I'm not prepared to go up against you in the wonderful world of quantum physics and some of the higher order functions that you are espousing according to the theories that you have, which I will almost certainly agree with 100% once I'm done reading them and tuning my mind to understand the beauty of your prose. Yes, I'm a believer in Jesus of Nazareth as the Son of God. And that does change the paradigm a bit. And that creates our own little esoteric circle there. But even amongst the great unwashed and the faithless, free will explains everything. To me. Everything except that, yes, God exists, and yes, the soul is immortal. And because of those three things, God's existence, the immortality of the soul, and the freedom of the will, to me there is no other esoterica other than me. And that sounds like ego, but it's the ultimately humblest thing I can possibly say. Much like Socrates, who was a truly wise man and knew that the only thing he knew is that he didn't know everything, I'm in the process of trying to esotericize myself and answer to my own questions. Because as much as I want to teach my children about Christ and the church and the truth and eternal love, and exemplify that to my wife by being a good husband, and show that to my students by being a good teacher, and watch everything that comes out of my mouth and everything I put into it, and have that be guided according to ad maiorem Dei gloriam, it all still comes down to free will and whether or not I'm going to do it. Because God's existence and my soul's immortality don't change, but how I exercise my will is a daily task. Hell, it's a momentary one. So as this slightly overlong feast of Samhain, this pagan feast, I'll put it this way. Someone somewhere will see this glowing on my porch this week and be convinced that makes us devil worshippers. I got news for you. Look it up. And don't worry, I'm going to link it to this video. Look it up and you'll find that Halloween, as we celebrate it right now, is more Catholic than maybe any other holiday that is celebrated around the country. If anything, Christmas and Easter have been secularized far more than Halloween. I'll explain it with a link, I promise. But in the meantime, I have got pagan images all over this house. Hell, one's right above my head, and it doesn't make me a devil worshiper. If you think that it does, your Christianity is what has been usurped by your own ignorance and the fact that you don't know the faith that Jesus began on this earth when he told Peter he was the rock upon which he'd build his church. You're quite ignorant. You don't know any better. You've read 3 lines of scripture and recently kicked a drug habit, and now you're all screwed up on the Lord like you were all screwed up on drugs before you found Jesus. Well, Jesus knows where you are, and he loves you despite your ignorance, but trust me, we are doing the weird ofrenda thing here as the pasty white types that we are, because we love the culture of everything that is our faith. Our esoterica here on this porch is that we are very, very Catholic and very Christian, and we love Jesus very, very much. And yet we're surrounded by all this other stuff, and it doesn't make us Amazon Synod worshippers of pagan idols, you dumb bastards. So get your candy on this week and regret it. I hope you like the black and white, and I hope you like that, well, to quote the lyrics of the great one, Robert Plant, and his pal, Jimmy Page, the song does remain the same. God is love, and he exists. The will is free. Exert your free will according to God's existence and the immortality of your soul. That song remains eternally the same. Bye-bye. Enjoy your week and the candy.